Weight loss solutions are not one size fits all. Hers makes it simpler to get started and stick with a weight loss plan, backed by expert-guided online care that puts your weight loss goals first. These include oral medication kits or compounded GLP-1 injections. Through Hers, pricing for oral medication kits start at just $69 a month for a 10-month plan when paid in full upfront. No hidden fees, no membership fees. You shouldn't have to go out of your way to feel like yourself. Hers brings expert care straight to you with 100% online access to personalized treatment plans that put your goals first. Reach your weight loss goals with help through Hers. Get started at forhers.com/4u to access affordable, doctor-trusted weight loss plans. That's forhers.com/4u, forhers.com/4u. Paid for by Hims and Hers Health. Weight loss by Hers is not available everywhere. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Restrictions at forhers.com apply.
All across America and around the world, this is Veterans Radio. This is Veterans Radio.
Good day. I'm Jim Fausone. I'm the officer of the deck today here on Veterans Radio, and thanks for joining us. We've got some interesting stories for you. We always want to remind you can find more about Veterans Radio at its Facebook site or at the web, veteransradio.org, where we're on the web 24/7. You can find a lot of our podcasts there as well. We post new ones every Tuesday, so you can get a new story, a new interview, something you didn't know before by going to veteransradio.org. And before we get started, we want to thank our sponsors. First up, we want to thank National Veteran Business Development Council, nvbdc.org. It was established to certify both service-disabled and veteran-owned businesses. You'll find out how they can help your business by going to nvbdc.org. We want to thank Legal Help for Veterans. Legal Help for Veterans fights for veterans' disability rights all across the nation. You can reach them at 800-693-4800 or on the web at legalhelpforveterans.com. And finally, PuroClean. PuroClean is the paramedics of property damage. It provides water damage remediation, flood water removal, fire and smoke damage remediation, mold removal, biohazard cleanup. It also has a focus on veteran franchisees. You can learn more about them by going to puroclean.com. We want to give you a little advance notice. We're going to have a Veterans Radio event on Sunday, September 28th, 2025. Radio on the River. We're doing a new location on Freedom River in Livingston County, Michigan. We want you to save the date. We're going to have veteran storytelling and guest speakers. We'll have raffle items, great local musicians and food. Also, uniquely, there's going to be an opportunity to fly in a UH-1 Huey from the Michigan Flight Museum. And maybe you can also win a free ride that way. But plan on supporting Veterans Radio either by buying tickets or sponsoring. Radio on the River. Contact us at Dale@veteransradio.org or Jim@veteransradio.org to get more information, but we'd love to have you come out, and we'd certainly love to have you sponsor. We just want to remind you that Veterans Radio podcasts are available on all your favorite streaming platforms, including RSS.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Rees Across America Radio. So wherever you are, you can find us, whether it's on your mobile phone or your computer or your laptop, your tablet. But listen in to Veterans Radio Podcast. We post something new every week, and you're going to find it informative.
We want to welcome to Veterans Radio today Air Force veteran Raymond Mike Sands. It goes by Mike, so that's what I'm going to call him. Mike, welcome to Veterans Radio.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate everything you're doing and getting the word out about what we veterans are up to.
Well, that's one of the stories we want to tell. Most people probably don't know that the third Friday of every September is National Recognition Day MIA POW National Recognition Day. And we want to highlight that a little bit. And we're going to talk about that some. Mike served in the Air Force from about August of 1967 till sometime in 1971, and comes from, his father was a veteran, an Army veteran, World War II. But Mike has never walked away from his veteran status and is still very active in terms of trying to keep certain messages alive here in the state and here nationally. Mike, I think most people would be surprised to know that there's still 88,000 service members missing from the wars and conflicts in which the U.S. has been engaged. That's a big number.
For sure.
And one of your counterparts in this effort is a woman by the name of Marty Eddy, who's been involved in this since the early 1970s, has a family connection as to why she's so active in it. But almost every month, maybe almost every week, their DOD is announcing the identification of remains of those 88,000 missing service members. DNA technology, I suppose, is how this all gets done. But talk about a little bit about what drew you into working on this issue and keeping this issue alive.
Well, how much time do you have? No, it's quite fascinating. I don't know if I've been blessed or cursed, but my father served at the end of World War II in Germany, and my family descended from Eastern Europe. So my father, being German, sprechen Sie Deutsch, kleine Bissel, ended up in Germany at the end of the war, and he was a truck driver. And I'm going, truck driver, what's he doing with a combat infantry badge? Why is a guy that worked in the motor pool have at the end of the war? Well, I found out years later that he was part of the program, if you will, to clean up the mess after the Russians came in and slaughtered the Germans. So he had what they call shell shock at that time. And that's one of the reasons that he was so involved with the American Legion. So when I came along, he wanted to keep that flag flying. So he signed me up as a charter member of the Sons of the American Legion when I was 10. So I would go in the parades. I would, decorate my bicycle red, white, and blue and all this. And so in my teens, I became draft bait, of course. And because of my interest in shop class, I was able to pass the Air Force qualification test and join for 4 years as opposed to being drafted for 2. But that created a situation where my dad said, now that you're a veteran, you need to get back involved. Well, when the Vietnam vets came home, we weren't very popular, of course. And a lot of the World War II people say you didn't fight in the real war, But my dad always supported me. And that's kind of what got my interest. But there's a song from the 60s called 10 Years After. A lot of us Vietnam guys, we had to, reestablish our jobs, our families, readjust to being home. And so there was a drought there for a long time. So even though I was in the American Legion, I didn't do much. I met a fellow during when David Bonnier was running for office. He's from Macomb County, and so am I. And he was all about veterans in Congress, about recognizing our service. And he had a rally in Detroit, and a friend of mine and I went there. We met a fellow named Jack Devine. Jack Devine was one of the founders of Vietnam Veterans of Michigan. And later they joined up with Bobby Muller, the Vietnam Veterans of America out of New York. And so we became Chapter 9. And because we're Detroiters, people, you guys are pretty tough. Well, literally, we bought a building in the heart of the Cass Corridor, which at the time was the murder capital of America, and bought a building from the University of Michigan Regents for $10,000. And this place was a hellhole. I mean, the homeless had dragged in all kinds of you-know-what and feces, blah, blah, blah. We took 13 dead cats out of there, but we turned that building into a veterans center to help the community, to help homeless veterans, to make a difference. And I think the record speaks for itself. But I'm proud to be member number 61 and be involved and be able to carry on the progress, the forward progress of Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 9.
Well, you were a board member for that chapter. You're a former commissioner with the Michigan Vietnam Memorial Monument that was built on
Yes.
the Capitol grounds and dedicated
Yes.
20 years plus now in 2001.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
You've been active for a long time and sort of have a view of the importance of continuing to think about our POWs and MIAs.
For sure.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, again, interesting. Couple of things. Number one, that I served in the Air Force during the bombing of North Vietnam and Rolling Thunder. I serviced the F-105 Thunder Chief, which has stories. They call it the one-man guided missile. They call it the Thud. That aircraft was originally designed to carry a nuclear warhead. I don't know if you know that, but the F-105 Thunder Chief from the Cold War has a bomb bay, and the bomb bay was designed to carry a nuclear warhead. And the planes were stationed in Europe, and the pilots, it was the Strategic Air Command at the time, and if the pilots got called up, they had a specific target that they were given once they were called up, and they would not return from that target because the detonation of the nuclear bomb was greater than the speed of the aircraft. So you could say that we had kamikaze pilots. So that aircraft was never used for the purpose it was intended. But when the war started in Vietnam, they converted it to a fighter bomber and loaded it up with everything from anti-personnel bombs, napalm, 500-pound bombs, 750-pound bombs. And so these pilots, the lead sled, they sometimes call this, use this thing for a purpose that it wasn't initially designed for. Anyway, we lost a lot of those aircraft. We lost a whole lot of those aircraft. And I would, send them out. I'm a ground crew person, but I was responsible for all the flight controls, the landing gear, the steering, all that business.
And you told me earlier you were over in Thailand. These are the
I was in Thailand.
That, secretly are coming out of Thailand and supporting the war mission. And so guys from that base that were shot down became POWs or MIAs. And so that's kind of where the driver came for you, I take it.
Oh, yeah. Well, not only that, I'm having goosebumps while I'm speaking with you, but I don't know if you've heard of Digger Odell.
Oh, sure.
Digger Odell, he flew the same aircraft that I serviced, F-105 Thunder Chiefs. And he was there before I was. But when I later found out that Digger flew out of Korat, where I was, we kind of bonded. So I got to know Digger very, very well. And also he was the public affairs fellow for Selfridge Air Base here, which I'm also involved with. So
and just for our listeners who don't know the story as well as you do,
sure,
he was a POW.
Oh, for sure, for 5 5.5 years.
5 years, yeah.
Yeah.
So so again, you have this personal connection with this issue, and it really goes kind of beyond just, geez, I feel bad for these families who don't know what happened to their loved ones.
Well, here's a story that I would like to share with you. So, the war, we pulled out in 73. The war was over in 75. But we had our POWs that were unaccounted for. And the ones that were returned were able to walk. They were, looked like they were reasonable condition. But here in Fraser, where I live, there was a family that had a missing son, Robert Leon Tucci, who was a captain at the time. And he was flying an F-4 Phantom II in the secret war in Laos. We weren't there, but we were there. And that's what my outfit did. When Nixon stopped the bombing, our sorties picked up. We were doing twice as many sorties. We're saying, well, if the bombing has stopped in Vietnam, why are we doing all these bombing runs? So here where I live, they have a VFW post 6691. And when the POWs came home, there was no Robert L. Tucci. And so the family of Robert, they came to the VFW and said, how come Robert's remains or body hasn't been returned. So the commander at the time here was Nelson Amstill, and he partnered with a judge, Frank Zadkoff, and they raised money here in Fraser to send these two fellas to Paris to negotiate with the North Vietnamese to find out where Robert Tucci is. So they went there, they had their meeting with the North Vietnamese, and the North Vietnamese answer to them was, when Richard Nixon pays for the damage that he caused by bombing North Vietnam, we will let you know about Tucci and many others that are unaccounted for. So we found out, that Tucci was shot down in Laos, but we weren't in Laos. So the local newspaper here, the Macomb Daily, Mitch Kahishan, started a series about where's Robert Tucci, where are the POWs. And so at the same time, the POW MIA program started up. Marty got involved, Vietnam vets got involved. And so that kind of kept me going with it. And like I said, we kind of hold that flag dear because we were part of the initiation of starting the POW movement.
Yeah, and the reason we're having this conversation, and Mike and I have talked about this, is it's still relevant today. It may be 50 years later, but even today, if you go to a veteran program, there's often a table recognizing the MIA POWs, and it's very symbolic. I had the opportunity to take my nephew to one recently. He had no idea what the table was about, and heard the meaningfulness of the lemon, the salt, the upside down glass, the empty plate. There's a very important symbolism here, but we have to explain that to people who weren't around 50 years ago,
Right.
and keep it alive to know that the country made a commitment to bring these guys home. And yeah, it may be many, many years later, but the families still really do need and appreciate getting remains home. And so one of the projects you're working on that let's talk about is trying to keep that idea alive in a state capital like Lansing, Michigan, where you're working on a chair. Talk a little bit about what that project's about.
Well, I had the opportunity to participate in one of the runs for Rolling Thunder. Rolling Thunder is sponsored by the motorcycle group Rolling Thunder. And for Memorial Day, each year they would have a bike run to the to the national capital, I'm sorry. And I had the privilege of participating because I was on the Michigan Vietnam Monument Commission. So I actually got to ride in the lead of that group. But the interesting sidebar is that I had a Yamaha, and these were mostly Harleys. And a lot of the Vietnam vets, they had the Harley Davidsons. And so,
you got ribbed for your Yamaha.
I got ribbed, but I'm in the front, right? I'm with the Vietnam veteran motorcycle people. And when real quick, we left Michigan here with 6 bikes. We got to Monroe with hundreds of bikes. We got to Ohio, we had 2,000 bikes. So we're going into Maryland, and there's a Harley dealer that is kind of welcoming everybody. So I'm in the front of the group, and the guy's out in front, he's waving in the Harleys, but he's telling me, no, you can't go in there. So the bikers that are with me, they're going, no, he doesn't go in there, we don't go. So we got thousands of motorcycles backed up trying to get into this Harley Davidson thing. So the owner comes out, and he shakes his head, he says, go ahead, you can go in there. But anyway,
let me get you back to the chair that you're working on.
Sure. So yes. So the Rolling Thunder Motorcycle Club, their mission is to have a POW MIA chair at every state. Marty Eddy's been working with this as long as I've known her. And we have been instrumental in, like I say, beating the drum, letting people know how important this is. And I think if you go to any veterans, whatever you want to club, I say, you'll see a chair in there. So Michigan does not have a POW MIA chair. And Chapter 9, we've been able to raise quite a bit of money, and we said we're going to buy the chair. So we actually went to Lancaster, Pennsylvania. We found a custom manufacturer, if you will, that they deal with Amish craftsmen. And we modeled the chair after the chair in Washington, D.C. So it's they call it a library chair. It's white oak, got a brown color to it, and a black leather cushion. And we also have a 24-inch by 24-inch bronze plaque that's being made that tells the story, like you said. It has the symbol of the POW MIA logo and also the seal of the state of Michigan. And I hope this gets to the right ears, because why on earth can we not have this chair of honor, a national icon, in our state capital, when Michigan in particular is so significant in the history of the military activities in America? So I've gone through politicians, I've gone through bureaucrats, I've gone through, people, supporters, and it's just amazing to me. And I'm going to say it right to you. Shame on these people. Shame, 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 because lest we forget, and it's not going to cost the state of Michigan anything but a space to put it.
Well, and I want to jump on this, because the POWMIA iconic symbol says at the bottom, "You are not forgotten."
Exactly.
And we talked earlier, like, we have to pass on to the younger generations what this is about, why it's a sacred trust. And the state capitol is a place that they bring school kids in by the busloads every year. So this would create an opportunity for younger people to see that chair and ask, "Hey, what's that about?"
What's that about? Exactly. Sure. And the Library and Historical Museum is right there adjacent to the memorial. And the grounds where the memorial, the Vietnam Memorial, is also sacred. And it might be a place for future wars to be recognized. There'll always be wars, I hate to say. But we're kind of across from the Library Historical Museum and the Supreme Court building and the Capitol in this mall area. So we fought very hard. It took 11 years to get the Vietnam Memorial there, but we're happy to have that. We call it tension and strength. We call that memorial tension and strength, because it's a beam that's bent on a curve with a wire, and that shows the tension, and then the steel and the concrete show the strength. And there's 264 names on there.
So, Mike, as we come to a conclusion here, and I appreciate you coming on to represent the POWMIA community, and as we approach the National Remembrance Day, September 19th, 2025, this year,
Yes.
What final words do you want to pass on to our veteran radio listeners about the importance of remembering POWs and MIAs?
Well, we have a motto: for those who fought for it, freedom has a flavor the protected will never know. And, lest we forget, you mentioned earlier, and I'm going to say real quick, we have prisoners of war right now in Gaza. We have the Vietnamese prisoners of war number in up to 500,000. Not that they're all service people, but it's just amazing to me. Lest we forget, and how can we expect our young people to step up and serve this country if we don't recognize those who are unaccounted for? It's very, very important. I appreciate you taking the time to have me come on here and, help with the cause.
Well, we've got a moral obligation, and I think that's what you're trying to communicate, is that the country has this moral obligation, and future generations will judge us by whether or not we paid attention to it.
For sure.
Mike, thanks for taking some time with Veterans Radio today. We really do appreciate it.
I appreciate what you're doing, and God bless America, and keep her flying.
And I want to thank everybody for listening to Veterans Radio today. I am Jim Fausone. It's been a pleasure to be your host. I'm a veterans disability lawyer at Legal Help for Veterans, and you can reach us at 800-693-4800 or legalhelpforveterans.com on the web. You can follow Veterans Radio on Facebook
and listen to its podcasts and internet radio shows
by visiting us at veteransradio.org. That's veteransradio.org. We again want to thank our national sponsors, the National Veterans Business Development Council, nvbdc.org. Legal Help for Veterans, a veterans disability law firm with a national practice before the VA, can help you on your claims and your appeals. It can be reached at legalhelpforveterans.com or 1-800-693-4800. And PuroClean, a leader in property emergency services. It's the paramedics of property damage, providing water damage remediation, flood water removal, fire and smoke damage remediation, mold and biohazard cleanups. You can reach them at puroclean.com or 800-775-7876. We also want to thank our local sponsors. This would include the Charles S. Kettles chapter of the Vietnam Veterans of America, that's chapter 310, VFW Graf O'Hara Post 423, the American Legion Irwin Preskin Post 46 in Ann Arbor as well, the VA Ann Arbor Healthcare System, and certainly the National Vietnam Veterans of America Association. You can be a sponsor by going to veteransradio.org, clicking on the About Us and our sponsors, and help us out. Keep this program alive for the 21 and 22 years. Keep us going for another 20. Thank you.